All right. I believe we've got Dom Garrett with us from the Only Colors.
Hey, Mark. How's it going, man?
Some green and white. Those are the only colors, right?
You got it. I'm wearing my Lucky Cruton Day shirt. Had this one for about 15 years. So I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest, so it was a little bit of an early day, but really excited. National Signing Day, I think, was considered a relative success in East Lansing.
Dom, you know the narrative when it comes to Michigan State recruiting and being able to develop the players, even though the rankings and the stars aren't as high as what the results have been on the field, minus 2016, of course. So it's kind of difficult to judge your program because we can't judge it by the rankings and the stars. So we're looking at a class that's roughly 34th in the country, something in that range, 4 4-stars according to 24/7, 16 3-stars. So you're looking at the personnel, you're looking at what you need and looking at what you've heard and seen from these guys. So do you think it's a good class?
You know, that's always the issue. In the Twitter sphere, you know, I had a lot of people that were coming at me today saying we should save some of these scholarships and not take guys that have only really been offered MAC scholarships, and we should save some of this stuff. But you know, you hit it right on the head. You know, Mark D'Antonio and company have always done a really good job of being able to coach these kids up and take kids that don't have all of the acclaim, but turn them into something big. You know, I heard Jack Conklin's name get thrown around a couple of times. You know, we all know how much work he's done in the NFL. You know, he came in, he was not heralded at all. And, you know, D'Antonio actually said in his press conference today, you know, you never really know when another Jack Conklin's going to come in the door. So, you know, I think that you've seen, especially with programs like Western Michigan, right? PJ Fleck was able to take that type of talent and do something big with it. There's no reason you can't be able to do it at Michigan State. So, you know, they really beefed up on the offensive line. A couple of really big guys that came in there. One of our 4-stars, Kevin Jarvis. And then a guy that I'm actually really excited about, Mustafa Khalifa. He came from Dearborn Heights. So he's a Michigan, you know, state of Michigan kid. Everybody has been really excited about him. He committed early. And, you know, the thing that I think is the best thing for this class is that you see a lot of kids that committed fairly early, including like, you know, 4-star Hunter Rison at wide receiver. Commit early and don't really flip. There wasn't a lot of change that actually happened, which is always a great sign. Even sticking with a 3-9 season, which, you know, a lot of Michigan State fans are going to be really quick to try to forget. But at the same time, seeing those guys and seeing some of those types of commitments come in, I think there's a lot of grit in this class. So it might get back to the days of Michigan State needing to prove itself a little bit more, which I'm totally fine with.
When you say grit, I think Mark D'Antonio, so it fits. There should be grit in this class because that's how he likes it. He almost wants to be the underdog. I would think that he would almost be the guy that would turn down 5-star recruits because he would want to prove that he can win Big Ten championships without them. That's a bit ridiculous, of course. So I'm almost going to play devil's advocate to my opening narrative is that the results on the field have far outweighed what the recruiting rankings have said. But in the last couple years, it appeared as though D'Antonio was starting to parlay that success on the field into higher level recruits, and you were starting to pull in some better recruits and get into that top 20 or 25 range. And maybe this, at least if you look at the way it's rated, might be a bit of a step back, at least in terms of the prognostications.
Yeah, and I, you know, you have to agree with that. I think that ESPN last year had us at 22, and this year I think right now we're sitting at like 32. So, you know, anytime you drop down 10, you know, that's no good. You know, we're 6th in the Big Ten, so it's not anything that I'm going to shout from the rooftops and start yelling about how good Michigan State's class was. But at the same time, I think that that's what you have when you have a 3-9 season. That's what you have when you have other coaches in the Big Ten that are as much of powerhouses as any other conference in the country. Anytime you're recruiting in your own backyard against, you know, Jim Harbaugh in, you know, jumping fully clothed into a pool and Urban Meyer. Like, that kind of stuff's going to happen. But at the same time, I think that there was a lot of, if you want to take any silver lining from this past year, it's the fact that every single weakness that we had was shown completely through. So if you're a coach sitting down in a kid's living room and you say, hey, this is where we were weak, and we need you to help us make us stronger here. You're going to get playing time. You're going to get it probably pretty early. That's something that I think is definitely a benefit. And, I trust Antonio to be able to get that moving along.
Well, Dom, I got to say, it fascinates me from a program standpoint because I've been watching Big Ten football my whole life, and for a known commodity, a known program, but was pretty much excluding a couple bursts here and there, mired in mediocrity from like the 70s until about 2005. Then suddenly D'Antonio raises this to like a top 5 program without the great players, at least on paper. It's been pretty fascinating. And now you add the element of, like you say, Harbaugh, Meyer, now James Franklin, and man, this division is crazy good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. I've talked about it before. I think that as far as coaches wise, I would put the Big Ten up against any other conference in the country, especially on both sides of the conference too, East or West. So, it's a question that I've had before, like thinking about D'Antonio as a recruiter. I understand what he could do with a coach. I can understand what he does with talent. But I watched 3 of his periscopes today, and he wasn't doing Salt Bae. He wasn't talking about any of that kind of stuff. So that living room presence, is that missing maybe a little bit? But you just have to hope that some of those weaknesses that we had were able to actually get in check a little bit this year, and make it to another bowl game, get another 2 or 3 8-win seasons, sort of rolling. Put this season behind us. I think that's definitely going to move some steps in the right direction to combat those other recruiting juggernauts that we have to deal with on a year-to-year basis.
All right, 3 early enrollees that we'll see in the spring practice field here in a couple months. Dom Garrett joining us from the Only Colors to set us up for Michigan State on National Signing Day, and another what we would expect out of a Michigan State recruiting class on paper. We'll see how it plays out. I would trust the process if I was a Sparty fan, no doubt. Dom, we appreciate the time.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark.